Hello there. How are you? I'm Paul. So, I've been seeing a whole bunch of weird stuff on Facebook today, and I just wanted to reflect on my journey and what it took me to find my truth, my confidence, my foundation as a man, or some might call it our crucible that we hold the feminine in. I was born in 1970, so I grew up in a time where masculinity was all about having a good job and serving your family and coming home and being a good dad when you had time, etc. But it was not even what a generation before was given as a masculine. At least my father was learn to fix tractors and be on a farm and serve the animals and other stuff, which was often the work of the masculine previous. Thankfully, that father, in his time, he was able to teach me how to fix cars and do mechanic jobs and be self-sufficient. But at that time, the feminine was very much in their masculine. There were homemakers and other things that were starting to get into the workforce, etc. So even then, the distortion had already begun. What was the difference between a masculine and feminine? I could care less whether a woman chooses to have a job or work in construction or be a warrior or whatever. There's no judgment. But in a time before that, much before the 1970s, it was very traditional, Gomer Pyle-esque, where the mom was the happy one that cleaned the house and made the food and had made supper and smiled and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not reinforcing any things here, but jump one or two generations before that, and we're in more kind of like native cultures and where there was rites of passage and other things for young men to be introduced, indoctrinated into, and initiated into being a man. So going on a vision quest, or hunting in the woods and getting your first kill or whatever, and drinking the blood of the animal or whatever. This may sound horrific, but at one time that was the initiation of the masculine and the warrior and the hunter, because those were gifts and skills that would support a good family and keep them safe for the rest of their life. Those have all gone away. So the tests of the masculine now are much less and much more subdued. You may be on a basketball team or part of a team, and maybe a hazing ritual or something where you got to drink a lot of alcohol or get pissed out of your mind, or you guys slap each other's asses or whatever. Not the same rituals, not an introduction to be a man, introduction to be our courage, introduction to hold space, introduction to have confidence in ourselves. But meanwhile, while this is happening societally, as masculines, we're kind of torn down and made to believe that we have to be something or do something to serve and be good and all this kind of stuff, which just kind of beats us down. So how do you earn your crucible as a man now? How do you earn your manhood? How do you do all these kind of things? It's a very alone process, I'm finding. It's trying to love a woman and having that woman come into your life, maybe looking for security or whatever, even if she's just straight out loving you, and then having these expectations of the masculine that are not well known or prepared for, like having a woman break down in tears and share a lot of pain or a lot of suffering or other things, which isn't a bad thing, but expecting the man to be a crucible, to hold space for her and collect her while she breaks down into a million pieces and shatters, which is a very important ritual, initiation, whatever, between a man and a woman. but we've been kind of over feminized in trying to then hold the feelings of the woman, hold the energy of what's going on, rather than just holding space and letting her burn through what's going on, be heard, etc. We're trying to fix, we're trying to be in our feminine and try and make them feel better and hold them in a way that they're not asking for, when truly they want a masculine container. They want somebody just to hear them, let them rail, let them complain, let them scream, let them yell, whatever the emotions are, so they can be expressed in a container where they're held and they can feel safe. And then once it's over, it's complete. And I would say men need these containers as well. And this comes later on in the trust process between masculine and feminine. But it can also burn a man if the emotions that are released are too close to his own and he hasn't done his inner work. The pain can be taken on for themselves, and it can burn through the crucible, and then the woman doesn't feel safe, and maybe he gets triggered and reacts and other things, which aren't good things. But where do you learn this stuff? Where do you learn to hold? Where do you learn to breathe? Where do you learn to sit in your trigger and know that it's important that you held a space so the woman can emote and heal and clear, which is part of the feminine, and getting the feminine back to her surrender and out of her masculine, and no longer having to fix or provide for herself or whatever, which has been societal expectation. We want to give them a container where they can feel soft and loving and back into their feminine and their nurturing and their self-love and other things. But this isn't discussed. This is such an important stage, and women will test us as men to make sure that we're ready to hold the container and have little fights and little blow-ups and other things to see if we lash out in pain or if we hold space for them and listen and breathe and hold them if they want, and all with permission. That's the masculine crucible, which hasn't been taught. And part of the reason I'm sharing this, I saw a man basically trying to teach these principles to men, and then a man came back and said, I'm tired of letting the angry feminine come at me and all this kind of stuff, and which is part of the process of us burning down and to voice this stuff and be heard by other men and stuff. But instead of hearing him and saying, okay, that's part of the process, he was shamed and made an example of how this is not the divine masculine, how you're not holding a crucible. Well, how do you learn that as a man? You don't get shamed into it. You don't get guilted into it. But I will tell you, once you made a connection with a woman and she's ready to go to there, and you can have a discussion about it, and she invites, is the best way I can describe it, invites that invitation, like, I like to go deeper, I'd like to express some stuff, and the man's knowing he's holding a crucible and she just wants to be heard and what the expectations are, it can become a very different experience. And it's the most holy, amazing, heart-wrenching, as well as fiery experience that you can ever have as a man, is to hold space for a woman as she's expressing and emoting pain, suffering, fear, past trauma, etc., to release it. But it can be massively healing. And it's rewarding when you get to the end. It may feel like you're being burned in fire, but as you step into your heart and you step into your witnessing and not taking it on, etc., this like bubble forms around you and the fire goes right around you and you're just receiving. I've cried before and I know she's receiving the gift that she needed. And often it's the man's responsibility to hold space for the woman before you can hold space for her, and building trust and building nurturing and other things that will help calm our nervous systems on both sides, which is needed, and lovingly introduce the possibility of something better that never has been done before. Often we have bad father figures or bad mother figures that have had their own wounding, and we've lived a whole life believing that about our man figures, our women figures, and it's not serving anyone. And the only way is through this kind of holy crucible or sacredness of a man and a woman coming together in expression and vulnerability and self-responsibility and accountability of what's showing up, and letting it go and being heard and witnessed and held space for, so that that no longer is a shame or a wound inside of them. It's a strength. Now it's been announced, and they're not broken, they're not hurt, and they're okay, and nobody had to make truth out of it or refine it into anything or whatever. It just got heard. Just heard. That is the holy crucible of the masculine and feminine, divine masculine and feminine. From there, it can lead into relationship, marriage, love, etc. If those tests and those crucibles haven't been passed, I do not think the union can continue in safety if it's not contained and there's not terms set out in how expression will happen, and how that can be done in a safe way, or agreements, whatever you want to call them. It changes everything. Once you're at a level of self-awareness that you can say, okay, my nervous is going to be triggered on this or whatever. Can you be gentle when you talk about it or whatever? I know this isn't what want to be heard, but as the trust builds, the level of integrity and the level of crucible and the heat it can be turned up to is going to ramp massively each and every stage, because you're not going to find a man that's fully done his work. You're not going to find a woman that's fully done their work. You're going to find people that are at stages, and they need people that they can trust and are accountable and follow through with their agreements, and especially as men, integrity and in confidence. And then something magical starts to happen. There's a slow boil that kind of continues between, and then as more and more intimacy is created, and I'm not talking about sex, of talking vulnerably about who we are and what we've had and all this kind of stuff, they share back, and then the boil heats up, and the boil heats up until there's a point when more can be released, and that may even proceed into intimacy as sexuality and sacred sexuality, where you can actually bring each other as partners to boil, and your gold is purified in this crucible of your partner, and the alchemy and the fluids and all the things that are involved begin to transform us and transmute all the pain and suffering and clear us of it, so that we're purified, just like gold. And that's the whole process. And everybody's lost sight of that without a discussion of what the container is and what these are and other things. We end up burning each other because we don't know what's going on, or we think it's an attack on us, or other things. Without communication and directness, the magic can't happen. So all I can say is, as a man, this is learned and refined over time. It's maybe had some bad relationships, maybe had a bad mother that was wounded, or whatever. Not bad is not the right things, but fiery, let's call it, that we're teaching us and training us. It's all for us. It's all happening for us, not to us. And if we can realize that a relationship is a partnership with another person to heal, to share stuff that may be messy, uncomfortable, that maybe has kept us small, and by the release of it and the free expression of it, and being held and nurtured and loved by another person while they witness, then magic happens. And this is by invitation. It's not by just agreement, like some man's going to hold space for you. If he's not feeling it, and he's not feeling the invitation or other things, he's going to run away. And it's a hard thing to commit yourself to potentially being burned by another person's stuff. But once he's been through it a few times, he's going to realize he doesn't get burned. And unless he tries to fix or tries to help or feel for the other person, the more and more it becomes a transmutational process. I don't know how else transmutatory is what the word that came out. But that's really what the depth of relationship is. That's the one level. We're looking for somebody that can hold space for us and help us purify. And whether or not that continues to another relationship, it changes us completely. And it could be the fire or the step that gets you to the next one that puts you at a new level. And can you imagine the stuff that's shared at this new level, where you can handle the deepest fire, the deepest pain, the deepest suffering, and not projected on the other person, just spoken about and shared and emoted, and like, ouch, this hurts and I'm crying. And that other person's going to see you as something better, not something broken or something wounded, but somebody who can speak openly about all the shit they've been through and can release it and move on, and is a holy grail. I don't know how else to describe it, or a holy container for relationship, for love, for children, for whatever that next step is. So we can't force men into this crucible level experience. I think it has to be nurtured through men talking together and openly, and then invited by the feminine, and say, okay, I'm ready to move to this next level. I'm looking for somebody to hold me while I express these things. And the man may have the same request of the woman. But from there, the magic begins, because now it's not about burning down your partner or winning, or I'm better, or my pain's worse, or any of those kind of things. It's more about win-win. It's like when I'm purified and she's purified, there's no more burning of each other. There's no more fire. There's no more, not fire in a kind of like I'm hurting kind of way, but a fire in pleasure, in love, in possibility. Because now we can speak any truth. We can ask for what we want. We can change the plan in the middle of something with consent and agreements and other things. So I guess the final, I want men, so lean into your crucible and be it whenever possible. It's a holy test, a holy fire, and trust me, the women are looking for a man to have a strong crucible. And women, just invite the man, because it'll burn him down in a way, just even to get there, in a way that he cannot even imagine. He's going to have to let go of all his wounding and look at his shadows and other things. So it's not a small step to invite a man to that. But I will surely tell you that to have a feminine by your side or holding space while you're preparing yourself for that, it can be so much more self-loving, and because you literally feel like you're burning to death sometimes, or that the world is trying to kill you. It's not something that men have been prepared for, and there's no men talking about it. I'm trying to be one of those men, but I invite you to, if you want that container and your man's not going there or whatever, invite him into that container and talk about this container. Show him this video. And I'm more than happy to talk to anybody that's on this journey and trying to figure out and feeling burned by it and that kind of stuff. I defended a man today that was being shamed for not walking into this fire, or not holding space in some massive way for something that he never knew he had to. He never knew it was part of the process. So I love you all, and I've talked a lot here, so I'm going to leave it at that. But if you're having trouble holding that crucible, let me know. If you have a man that wants it, or send him this video, or talk to him about it, because it's not a small thing. It feels like being burned alive and losing who you are, and a whole bunch of things that you may feel as you're entering that crucible as well. And it's not a small step, and it's not something that men are instinctually understanding, because it's like walking straight into a fire and not knowing if you come out the other side, but you will. If you hold space for yourself and you have people by your side that can hold you as you falter, etc., you will make it through. It's all part of the masculine journey. I love you all. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.